Welcome to another episode of DC Transit Matters. I'm your host, Cheryl Fields. You know, everyone wants affordable, safe, and reliable transit, but sadly, not everyone in the DMV gets it. Faith-based leaders are now among the growing list of folks advocating for improved public transit in our area. Not only do they care about the well-being of their parishioners, they also want the workers who provide these vital services to be treated with dignity. In this episode, the Nuns on the Bus and the Washington Interfaith Network explain why transit matters to the communities they serve.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Reeves, and I am a Metro Access Transit driver and a proud member of the ATU, Local 689. I have been with my company for more than 4 years. I am blessed to say that I really do enjoy my job. I only wish our employers showed me and my coworkers a little more appreciation. My regular schedule had me working 13 12-hour days each week. $13 an hour is not enough for a family to make it in DC. So instead of working the regular schedule, I am now working 6 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day, just to get closer to what I need. The low pay of my original schedule made it impossible for me to make ends meet. As a result, my daughter and I were homeless for 3 months last year. During that time, we moved around a lot. Yet and still, I went to work every day, never showed up late. My employers or coworkers never knew what I was going through. Don't get me wrong, I am grateful for my job. It came along when things got so bad, I was on public assistance and needed a way out. When there is so much at your door and you feel like you're about to lose your mind, you take what is open. But deep down, we all hope that if we work hard enough, the low-wage, entry-level job will lead to a living wage, the benefits we need and deserve. I'm sorry to say that that's not how it works for some of us.
I'm a cook at the Senate. Even though I serve wealthy and powerful senator, I only make $12.30 an hour.
It is not just the chase for money that is important, that it is about making sure that everyone has the decency to sustain their lives, has the dignity to work hard at the job and be paid for that work, and that they be able to raise their families, they be able to be part of the community of people because they have the dignity and the respect that all working people should have.
With little to no benefits and no pension, I know it looks bleak for me and lots of other working people, but I am optimistic. I believe that by sharing our stories and demanding our fair share of our company profits, things will get better. This is why I applaud the Nuns on the Bus and others who have joined our righteous struggle. I believe through and through that by more of us working together, we can and will get workers what they need.
When the Pope, who is now visiting us here in Washington, D.C., addresses Congress, I would hope that my colleagues listen. I would hope that my colleagues feel. And I would hope that my colleagues take time to understand that the bridges that we have to forge and the bridges that we need to not only walk across, but meet in the middle of, are bridges that are part of the values of this nation as they are part of the testament that the Pope has given us and given the world.
I only hope that the senator I serve open their heart and mind to his word and stop giving federal contracts to companies that keep workers in poverty.
Good Jobs Nation and Nuns on the Bus have been formidable allies for all people in making sure the agenda of fairness, justice, and more importantly, that we are all connected as human beings and as a world.
I hope it isn't Fantasyland that we're living in, because I hold your hope. I especially hold your hope after traveling this country on our beloved bus, and you'll see thousands of signatures there of people who have committed to bridging divides and transforming politics. Who are we as a nation that values families that we can't find a way to keep our families together? It is immoral and it's unpatriotic that we don't do the basics required to bring our people together, to bridge the divides. And what do we experience? Politicians yelling at each other, not trying to solve our problems.
And this one, we went out across the United States to bring Pope Francis's message of an economy of inclusion, an economy that welcomes everyone in, and caring for the earth. He says that we don't have just an economic crisis and an environmental crisis. We have one crisis of exploitation, and that's what we were on the road to address. In St. Louis, where we started, Mike Brahan, who's the president of the local, came and talked about the struggles they're having in St. Louis, where they're cutting back on routes. People can't get to work, that they have work, they don't have cars, but they can't get there because transit doesn't exist. In Kansas City, we saw both labor and management in the transit I forget the name of the transit organization there, but working together to try to improve the routes. But what they saw, they needed to serve the people. And in serving the people, then they had dignified labor. But where there gets to be a disconnect, we've got a problem. We were in Nashville, and it was really great because these young kids who, Jesuit volunteers, are new graduates from college, they'd been in Nashville for a couple weeks, and they said, "Oh, wow, our toughest thing is we're trying to figure out how to get around without a car. We can't figure this out. It doesn't seem to be possible." And a couple of the union folks were there later, talked to me, and they said, "Wow, they had it absolutely right." The basic message is it can no longer be about the cheapest wage or the cheapest price. It has to be about the most just price. And I realize I like a bargain. I mean, they call me Sister Mary Tightwad for a reason. I always like saving money. But what I've realized is that's wrong. What I've got to do is pay the price that gives the dignified labor a living wage. And that may be slightly higher, but I can have a clear conscience then if I've paid the moral price. And so what we have to do is come together as a nation and say, let's support everybody. There's enough to go around if we share. I have 3 virtues for the 21st century. Great. The first one is holy curiosity. Find out what's going on in your neighborhood. Ask questions. Be interested. Find out are people paying just wages or not, and then support them. The second is, after holy curiosity, is sacred gossip. Sacred gossip is where I share what I found out. Like I told you about what's been going on in Nashville and what's happening in Kansas City. Those are important gossip pieces to share. But the third one that's most important is do one thing, but do it in relationship with others. And because we're all connected, it doesn't, in some ways, it doesn't matter where you're called, but do your part. Do your part to make a difference. And if everybody does their part, it all gets done. That's the joy of community. No one can do it all, but we each do our part. We build it up. And because I'm a person of faith, I call it the body of Christ. But I think actually what it is probably we the people of the United States, forming a more perfect union.
Karen Reed, you just spoke with the nuns on the bus, and you were among several other people who were talking about the needs of working people. What do you think policymakers need to understand about what people like you are saying in terms of needing to have a living wage?
That we work just as hard as they do, and we want an equal pay. It would be better if they would come and, ask the workers exactly what it is that they need, what are they looking for, at least give us that opportunity to express it to you instead of having to fight so hard for it. To me, I think that's a better opportunity for you to come talk to me, come talk to the people and see exactly what's going on. Then you can explain to us exactly why you can't pay as much as you want, as much as we're asking for. The people don't understand because they see you getting richer and us, not surviving.
And if I'm a rider on Metrobus or on Metro or someone like that, and I don't really know a lot about your details, are there ways that I can support or learn more about what the workers are talking about?
They can either call through the Metro Access, or they can call the base and talk to someone in customer service. If they really want to know what's going on, they can call through Metro Access, and Metro Access will direct them to, if they want to talk to someone at the base regarding how they can help or what it is that they need, then they'll give them that guideline.
How did you enjoy being with the nuns on the bus?
They were fun. I got a chance to take a picture with Sister Simone doing deuces. So that was cool. That was fun. I want to do it with the Pope, but I know I'm not going to have a chance to do that, but that was fun.
It has been an incredible journey. I have learned so much on this trip that it's just unbelievable.
What are among the stories, because the theme for this bus has been Bridge the Divide.
Right.
Have you learned something about just how divided the country is?
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing what goes on in this country that people are not aware of. And the thing that really was a wide awakening to me is so many people don't care. And we got a small group of sisters that are willing to go out and take their time out of their busy schedule and try to make a change. I drive entertainer buses. 51 years of driving entertainers.
Okay, and in all that time, I guess my question is, how do the sisters compare to, in terms of their compassion for others, to the folks that you usually drive?
It's like I say, it's a journey and an experience that you will never find in rock and roll or country music or R&B. These are sisters that are dedicated to what they're doing. They're not out here for a party or a good time. They are truly dedicated to their work, so it's really a blessing to be part of it.
Has it changed your life in any way?
Oh, absolutely. It's great awareness of things that are going on that need to be taken care of, and especially like she talked about the transit in Kansas and the people in Nashville. All the kids that don't have lunches and all the things that go on, people needing jobs and can't get to them. And it makes you aware of really thanking God for what you have and trying to reach out and join them in the force of helping other people.
We're here today with Pastor Anthony Minter at First Rock Baptist Church here in Southeast Washington. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because I know your congregation has been involved with the Washington Interfaith Network. Talk to us a little bit about how you got involved with that initially, and then we'll talk about the role you are playing with that in transit.
Sure. It was some years ago. Actually, I was first introduced to the Washington Interfaith Network, which we call WIN, when I was actually the assistant pastor. So I began conversations with them about what they do, and I went to a few of their actions, and so they were pretty much on my radar. And then when I became the senior pastor, I began to interact. And the thing that really drew me toward them and made it real clear that this is a group I needed to be a part of is that they were doing a lot of the same things that I really felt like makes great impact in communities. And I'm a strong believer that every church ought to impact the community that they're in. And so even before we were connected with WIN, we were doing things as it relates to affordable housing and certain things like that. And with WIN, I really saw even a better way of being able to do that. And so it was just a really very good fit.
How important is transit to people in your community?
Yes, it's major. As I was saying earlier, a big thing for us as a church is getting folk decent jobs, and I mean what we call living wage jobs. Mm-hmm. And of course, all of those jobs are not going to be in the immediate community, so it takes a really suitable system of transportation to be able to get back and forth to work. And so that's certainly important. But then just to be able to get around the city in general, whether we're talking for social issues or whatever, it's very important. And I believe it's important to have a transit system that is able to accommodate no matter what area of the city you're in. There ought to be appropriate accommodations to get you from one place to another.
What are some of the concerns that people in this neighborhood, in this community, have about public transit that you've heard?
Yes, we've had what we call house meetings, and we've talked to members about what their concerns are. And some of the major concerns that I've heard at those meetings are changes that happen within the system, and many of the residents feel like they've not received appropriate notice so that they can have a voice in that. You know, by the time they know it, it's pretty much a done deal. And those changes many times has to do with changing routes, or in sometimes routes that are being taken away altogether. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the major things that I've really heard them be concerned about, express their concern.
So are there other issues that are of concern to your parishioners around transit?
Yes, actually they are. Some of the things that came up as we met with members around the issue was they wanted to see more consistent safety issues addressed around the particular, some specific bus stops. So they wanted well lit, and they were concerned about some being near wooded areas, in particular near wooded areas, and not well lit. So that of course is a major issue for them. And of course, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, the whole issue with Metro Access.
And Metro Access is the service that provides people with disabilities and elderly people with an on-call kind of access to transit.
Exactly. And so, yeah, sometimes the concerns that were voiced is that sometimes they have long waits, and they many times will end up getting on, and they're picking up numerous people. So once they get on the bus, they have to pick up numerous people after them, and which a lot of times will make them late for their appointments, doctor's appointments, or whatever.
So it's a scheduling challenge?
It's a scheduling challenge for sure. And so, I mean, those kind of things. And I mean, we have actually had members who were brought here and then didn't get picked up. It has happened. So, you know, those are the kind of concerns that people generally voice.
Clearly in Washington, and as in many cities around the country, transit, public transit has been a pathway to the middle class for a lot of people for a long time. Yeah. And yet in recent years, that's become harder and harder because the opportunities are a little bit more closed, and the jobs that are available sometimes don't pay as well and all that. What do you think about this? And in terms of those policymakers who might feel like we don't really need to keep that pathway open anymore, what's your perspective on that?
Well, that's a really good point you bring up. And interestingly enough, I have members of our congregation who are on both sides of that coin. I have some who have the good jobs that really afford them a decent living, and I have a number who, some are and some have worked for the part of what is the privatization
right.
of that whole process. And if I could be real blunt, really, I really don't think very highly of that whole piece as they privatize the system, because they tend to pay pretty much what I would consider slave labor. And I'm very serious. And some of the working conditions are, in my estimation, unreal. I actually advised one of my members to look, that really is, you need to look for a different job.
How does that then impact families? I mean, you're a church, people, you know, are in families. How does that impact families?
It absolutely impacts families in that it really puts them in a position where they're not able to be at home with their families because they're spending that much time there at the office. But then because you're not able to make a real living wage, you're not able to provide. So you're absent and then still not able to provide in a manner that's having the kind of effect one would want a job to have.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the elders in your community, in your church. To what extent is transit really an essential for them?
Oh, absolutely. There are a number of people, some who are elderly and some who are physically challenged, that depend on, like for instance, here would be Metro Access. So that type of thing really is important for them. And some of them who are not elderly, but just don't live immediately around the church, use the public transportation to be able to come back and forth to church. So simply to have access. And I think that really that's important. And I think about the fact that we were fortunate enough to be able to erect a seniors building in the community. And the thing that prompted that was what we were finding is that many of our senior members who were living in houses in the community, after they got a certain age, they just couldn't keep those houses up.
Right.
So they had to find somewhere that they could go. And all of the places at that time, we're talking a little ways back, but at that time, all the places were out in Maryland. And so literally you're taking them out of what they are already used to. And it definitely, in my estimation, affects the quality of life. So now they don't get to come to church as much as they used to come to church, and they have just a number of challenges as it relates to being able to maintain the type of lifestyle they had become accustomed to. So it was for that reason that we began the campaign to build that seniors home, and certainly it has made a difference, but it still speaks to the fact that people need to be able to access what they have come accustomed to, or what really makes their life, what brings it to a certain quality. And so I think those things being interrupted is a major issue.
Among people in your congregation who don't necessarily need or use public transit now, what do you say to them about why this is an issue that's important to all of us?
Well, we believe that we are, first of all, part of this community, so what affects the community affects us. And so whether I'm using public transportation or not, it still is very important to us so that the whole body can get around the way they need to, then so the community can have everything it needs, that public transportation is responsive to the needs of those that they serve, in particular in this community. And it's the same thing that I say, whether we're talking jobs, any issue that directly affects the life of those who live in this community, as far as I'm concerned, affects us as a church. And however we can help them to make that a better situation, we're certainly, that's part of what we're here for.
From what you've heard from the pastors and the parishioners that you've talked to, are there 2 or 3 big issues that irk them about the transit system as it is now?
Yes, we held a meeting here, and the concerns is the elderly, and how they're going to get back and forth to the store, to church, to just doctor's appointments. And that's most, and that pulled a little tear in my eye, because, I was raised to always respect your elders, to do what you have to do, to make sure that they are taken care of in the neighborhood. And we're all supposed to be all as one, but unfortunately society has changed a little bit, and we don't do as much as we should. And I felt as though that getting involved could bring us closer, as far as transportation working together, the community working together, making sure the buses are en route, making sure they wait for the elderly, handicapped, small children, because we do take the children to the schools and everything. So everybody just looking out for everybody.
Do you feel that the engagement of the pastors in this effort, and with their leadership and their help, that it can provide an opportunity for people to be heard who might not otherwise be heard?
Yes,
Okay.
I do, definitely, because without the pastors of the churches coming together, helping their people, because they see them more than we do. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm thankful.